It's a little weird because obviously I would only take Flacco's stats for the first 11 years when he was in Baltimore. I don't think you can count in the Jets and the last couple.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, when did he leave Baltimore?
He left Baltimore after 2018. He played 11 years in Baltimore. And then Stafford played 12 years in Detroit. So you can get a pretty good comp there. And then Goff is a little weird because, he had 5 years in LA and then 3 years in Detroit. It's only 8. So Goff's numbers significantly better than Flacco's, but they're not Matthew Stafford's.
You mean career?
Career.
Really?
Yeah. If I just went off of, again, because you're dealing with 8 years versus 11, but you're looking at averages, you're looking at rating. Goff by almost every metric is better than Flacco, but Stafford is...
I wouldn't have guessed that.
Stafford is a different...
Okay, so what do we got? What are we looking at?
Well, again, it's hard.
Give me QBR.
So if you're going quarterback rating, for the 5 years that Goff was in LA, he had a 91. The 3 years in Detroit, he's a 96.5. Like... He's been phenomenal. Like, his numbers are great. And the last 2 years in LA drag him down a little bit because remember, that's kind of where things fell apart. Whereas you look at Flacco in Baltimore had a career rating of 84. Like, and Flacco didn't throw for a lot of touchdowns, but Goff didn't necessarily either. And that's why I'm saying his completion percentage, the yards are better, but he wasn't a huge touchdown machine. Whereas Stafford's got a couple years where he threw for 40 touchdowns. And, some of his numbers, like his best seasons are like, whoa, where he was a monster.
Like, whoa.
Yeah. Like I'm looking here with Stafford here. I'm trying to find 1 year he completed 67% of his balls and threw 41 touchdowns. I mean, and then his first year in LA, 41 touchdowns. When you look at Goff's best year, 32 touchdowns, and you look at Flacco's best year, dude, Flacco didn't have a lot of big touchdown years. His best year is 25. And so that's what I'm saying. Yards, touchdowns, rating, Goff. Now, Flacco's wins and losses are great because, he was on some great Baltimore teams and he has a Super Bowl. Goff doesn't, even though he got to one. Stafford now has one. So to me, there's a pretty clear pecking order and of 1, 2, 3. But like I said, I think Goff is closer to Stafford than he is to Flacco.
Yeah, I wouldn't have said that before the show, but now looking through these numbers, yeah, Jared Goff has a better quarterback rating career than Matthew Stafford.
Yes.
I would never have guessed that.
No.
And he has a winning record. He's 66-50.
Yeah.
And Stafford 98-107.
Yeah. So the first year that he played, he started 7 games, went 0-7, right? And then after that, 11-4, 13-3, 9-7, 9-6, and they canned him after 9-6.
He's only had one losing year outside of that first one.
3-10, where he got to Detroit, and then after that, 9-8, now 12-5. Wow. So, and this is all I'm saying about him. I've been saying this for a long time. Look, he's not a world beater. I'm not saying that he is this never fails great quarterback that can do it on his own. But if you put him in a competent system with a good run game and an O-line, he's an old school quarterback. He's not a guy that's going to elude pressure. He's not a guy that, like, Mahomes can have 2 free rushers and he'll elude them and throw the ball 30 yards downfield. Jared Goff needs a run game, play action, under center, play inside of structure, but he throws a great ball. He doesn't make a lot of mistakes. Like, he is a much better quarterback than anyone gives him credit for. We just bag on him because McVay tossed him out. And he tossed him out because when the O-line fell apart and the run game fell apart, McVay was like, this isn't good enough. I need someone that can carry a team. Goff can't carry a team, but you can win a Super Bowl. You can get to a Super Bowl with him if you have a better team around him.
Well, he can sling it.
That's why I said he's a better version of Joe Flacco, because Joe Flacco won a Super Bowl. If you put Goff on that Ravens team, I think they can win. And give Flacco credit. He pulled an Eli Manning. That year in the postseason, he was fantastic.
I was going to say, I romanticize Joe Flacco because when he was good, he was sensational.
Yes.
And it was always at the right time, it seemed like.
That year they won the Super Bowl, he had 117 quarterback ratings.
He was awesome.
Playoffs.
I mean, he was awesome.
Yeah.
So I think of Joe Flacco as better because of that.
11 touchdowns, no picks. That is a
Dude, he was slinging it, man.
That's just a hero sort of performance there. Yeah, and they paid him.
Well, Jared Goff's got that opportunity in San Francisco on Sunday.
Yeah,
you know, I mean,
and that's why I'm kind of rooting for him. I would like him to.
He's been playing well.
I would like him to get over that stigma around him, but you know, he's playing against a better team in the 49ers. And then Brock Purdy has that same thing around. If we just kick this ahead 3 or 4 years, the same conversation we're having, if Purdy keeps putting up the numbers, we'll have the exact same conversation about Brock Purdy that we're having about Joe Flacco.
You think Purdy's as good as Goff?
Well, it's such a short sample, but again, if I brought Brock Purdy's numbers up, he's been really, really good since but you know, it's you're dealing with a 1 year.
I also feel like that label goes away if you get to a Super Bowl or win a Super Bowl, right? Like you guys think, or we all think of Joe Flacco as being this great quarterback. Well, because he got to a Super Bowl and won. Eli Manning might end up getting Hall of Fame votes. Eli Manning might be a Hall of Famer because he won 2 Super Bowls.
That's the only reason.
Right. Where if you look at Phillip Rivers, we talk about him as a guy who could never get over the hump, so we don't view him in that same light. Rivers is a better statistical quarterback than Eli Manning.
Well, I think of Rivers as better than Eli. Should I not?
Most people don't.
They don't?
It might be an age thing too. Like you got to see all of Phillip Rivers. For people my age, I kind of remember the LT years, but really I remember after LT is gone. So it's mostly just Rivers and Antonio Gates.
But, you know, reminder, Goff got to a Super Bowl.
He did.
I mean, he has been in the Super Bowl.
Yes. And was the highest paid player in the league because he was killing it. By the way, Brock Purdy
ran into Belichick, though.
He did. And that's the other one is they scored 3 points in the Super Bowl. And Todd Gurley was a shell of himself. But Brock, first year, started 5 games, 5-0, 13 touchdowns, 4 picks, 107 QB rating. 16 games this year, 12-4, 4,200 yards. By the way, best downfield throwing numbers in the NFL, past 10 yards, 31 touchdowns, 11 picks, quarterback rating of 113. So
who's better, Brock Purdy or Jared Goff?
Right now, you have to say Jared Goff because he's been doing it for longer. But I'm telling you, if Purdy puts up these numbers for the next 5 years, those are going to be as good of numbers as anyone not named, you know, Patrick Mahomes or one of the 3 or 4 best quarterbacks in the league. I'm sorry, 12-4 for 4,200 yards, 3-to-1 touchdown ratio, and 113 quarterback
Don't you
rating.
think, though,
it's freaking amazing.
Could I make the case that if Goff was with Shanahan,
probably
he's a champion right now?
Probably.
So
yeah, they're very similar. They're in that same boat.
Well, and that's going to be the knock against Purdy. If Purdy never leaves or Shanahan never moves on from Purdy, it's always going to be, well, Purdy's good because Shanahan was good. Look, he made Garoppolo good. You know, you go down the line, he made Matt Ryan good. He made Kirk Cousins good in D.C., right? So I think that Purdy, as long as he stays with Shanahan, is always going to have to fight that stigma.
Yeah, I don't think he'll ever get over it. You're right. If he stays in San Francisco, he could win two rings, and they'll be like, meh. Shanahan. It was all Shanahan.
Yeah.
That's just the life of Brock Purdy. That's the plight.
He will
of being Mr. Irrelevant.
It is going to be so hard for him to break out of that.
Well, we were talking about this because our poll question today is if Jared Goff wins the Super Bowl, who is his modern QB comp? Stafford, Flacco, Foles, or Russell Wilson? And we kind of settled down to Stafford and Flacco, so that's why we're getting after that.